Welcome to If I Only Had 10 Minutes. I'm Jane Randall, and I'm thrilled to have Torod Neptune with me today. Um, Torod, you just made a career change, so why don't you explain to people, sort of who you were and who you are?
Yeah. So I've been predominantly a CCO for three-quarters of my career. There was a part of that was not corporate, where I spent on agencies, big agencies. So I've had experience on both sides of the aisle. In the last 4 months or so, made the decision to do a little bit of a sideways turn and join academia. And so I accepted a 10-year track permanent faculty position at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I'm largely focused on bringing the industry perspective into the classroom. And so super
Right.
excited about getting at the front end of the pipeline.
Well, these questions will be interesting from your perspective, especially since you're working with, sort of digital natives now. How do you see AI transforming the skill sets that are most valued in communications professionals over the next 5 years, or even, I mean, we say 5 years, but it could be a year because it's moving so quick.
Yeah. It's a great question. I think it's it's on the top of mind for a lot of people today. I think most significantly in my mind, I think it's going to necessitate communicators being able to interpret AI driven analytics and sentiment and data to help inform strategy.
Mhm.
um, in a way that's perhaps still not fully appreciated. Um, and so, if you think about things like predictive risk modeling that we're starting to
Mhm.
talk much more about in our discipline, and the ability to act on early signals. And so, I
Mhm.
think AI is going to fundamentally enable us
Right.
to be able to do those things much more meaningfully, but will also necessitate, to your question, this rethink of the skill sets that we, hire for and that we, train for in our organizations.
Right. Does it come up a lot in your classes, the idea of AI? And you had said to me earlier that you go case study, and I wonder if, do you ever look at what would happen if we had had AI at this point? Or
My students are mostly upperclassmen, so they're graduating seniors, some
Mhm.
graduate students, and um, some of the anxiety around the noise in the ecosystem about the impact, unfortunately, most often the negative assumptions about AI,
Right,
uh,
right.
comes up more as I'm talking to them, counseling them to think about their careers and roles, and what the traditional communications function will need
Yeah.
uh, in the age of AI, more than in the day-to-day, work that we're doing, trying to analyze real-world examples of communications PR strategy that's worked well or hasn't worked well.
As you know, Comms Collective, we always have to ask a fractional question. When do you think is the right moment for a company to consider fractional support?
One of the areas that I think there's a ton of value from thinking about fractional support is, so many times within an organization, your existing team is distracted by the day-to-day noise,
Yep.
um, things that are just happening, and perhaps more significantly, just by the hardwired default mechanism that lives in an organization. When you sit within the four walls of a
Right.
company, a way people think about your industry, about the problems, and the value of the outside of the noise
Yeah.
perspective. Let's assume the competency is a given,
Right.
um, but being able to have a more seasoned, level-headed perspective that can sit beyond
Right.
the
Right.
noise in the echo chamber is, in my mind, super valuable. And perhaps, thinking about fractional from that vantage point, in
Hmm.
addition to all the other tactical benefits that we all know, are
Sure.
associated with being able to have resources that get plugged and played. I think that's probably the way I think about fractional, as super appealing, and uh, in its ability to bring some real world benefit to what is unfortunately a very innocuous discussion sometimes.
Right. The objectivity,
Yes,
a fractional would go home and ponder very differently than someone who's in it day to day. Right.
exactly.
So you've had a storied career, um, over the time, and even for your students, what do you wish leadership really got about comms?
I talk often with leaders in the C-suite about communications as a core competency,
Hmm.
a leadership competency, not a discipline that
Hmm.
resides in that organization over there, down the
Right.
hall, that do that work. Um, but it as a foundational competency, just as critical as the business acumen or as accounting or finance or risk or legal. Um, and I think in many ways, there's still work we have to do to disavow leaders in particular who sit outside our domain of communications as the discipline alone,
Right.
opposed to something it's a skill set competency that should be interviewed for, evaluated, criticized, critiqued, and for our colleagues in the other side of the company just as much as we use it for our specific team members within the communications PR side of things. And I think that ability to alleviate the task being assigned to the function
Hmm.
as opposed to a leader taking accountability. So no, I've got to have the accountability for ensuring this initiative, this business challenge is resolved, addressed successful by leaning into my role as a communicator
Right. Right.
and a leader.
No, it's so smart because I always talk with one client in particular about the idea of cascading messaging, and we all know it never works, right? It's like such a good idea, and it never works, and it's exactly what you're saying, right? It's this notion of the people that you're cascading to not really being able to communicate the way we need them to the people that need to hear it.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting take. What is sad to me is that however many years later, I still hear people say that comms needs a seat at the table. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, that was from the beginning of my career, and I'm old. So it's still the fact that people still think like that. Now, this is a crazy question for you because you just did. But if you could swap jobs, like, do you have anything that you wish you could do, like for one day or for reals? You know, is there something like you wish you could do?
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could sing. I think I probably think about that most often when I think
Me
about
too.
skills I wish I had.
Me too.
Um, and so I think if I could close my eyes, click my heels, and that would probably be the thing I'd say. And it may have a lot to do with this, just where I'm at in my life, where I think the cathartic nature of, a skill like that and
Right.
would be, that'd be the trick shot for me, I think.
It's so funny. That is totally the thing I always wished I could do. Okay, one more question and then maybe two, and then the final. If you could make a rule that everyone in comms had to follow for a week, what would it be? Like, what's your pet peeve in the comms space?
Yeah, I love this question. Um, the ideal for me would be brevity and clarity.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I used to have, a person on my team who will forever be nameless, who loved the spoken word. Um, and I remember being able to challenge him in ways that would force him to pause and think of the beauty of simplicity and brevity by going, okay, tell me what you need to say in 10 words or less. And I wasn't harassing him. I was trying to force him to think that way.
Sure. Of course.
Before you articulate it, think about the most concise, brief, clear way you can communicate what it is you want to communicate. I would love that to be something that, we all embraced and, used before.
What's one movie that you never turn off if it comes on, if you like scan through the TV and it's on?
Godfather 2.
That was so easy. It was such an easy question for you.
It was last week, and so I think
I
twice.
saw it too, actually.
So, always,
Yeah,
if I had to pick, it would always be that.
it's a great movie.
Yeah,
One of the only movies where the second is better than the first, right?
exactly.
Okay, we've come to the end. You've survived. So here's our signature question. If you only had 10 minutes, what would you do with that 10 minutes? You have an extra 10 minutes in your day.
You know, I would I would probably sit and think. I still believe most of us don't spend enough time just with ourselves, with our thoughts, processing, observing,
Yep.
experiencing. just living. And I'm trying to
Right.
consciously do that so much more, more intentionally now than I ever have.
I could not agree with you more. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy, but I really appreciate it.
No, thank you. It's great to chat with you. It's good to see you too.
You too. Thanks.
Take care.